Hello everyone, here we go again, connecting about your superpowers, the concept of optimal health, no hashtags, no BS. So if this video is not for you, keep scrolling, and if this video is for you, which I hope it is, stay here and let's talk a little bit about that. So super excited about this project. I've been working on it for the past year and a half. And as I told before, the concept is about number one, discovering your superpowers. What type of superpowers do you have? What type of natural abilities have you discovered in your existence since you were little? Maybe you're a great painter, maybe you're a great writer, maybe you have a lot of people skills, you're a visionary, maybe you can read minds. I don't know. What is your natural ability that you have discovered since you were basically born, and that may have never paid really attention to think about it? Okay, that's step number one. And then the other step is, which is super important, is the concept of optimal health. And the concept of optimal health is extremely important because we define it as the systematic health in four main quadrants. Okay, physical health, mental health, emotional health, and spiritual health. So, recapping a little bit, it's about keeping systematic development of those four quadrants. And one of the main concepts that we talked about before is that, for the most part, most people in the world never stop to really think about their natural abilities, God-given abilities, and number two, because they skip the first step, they never have a plan to develop those. People usually, go to college, acquire a profession, and make a living, which is good. But we talked before that if you work systematically on uncovering your superpowers and then develop them, not only you can do what you're doing right now, but you can do it at a higher scale because you're going to have that natural ability that other people don't have. So the main step is thinking about it, what is your natural ability, and then second step is what am I going to do to develop those abilities? And that's where the concept of optimal health come into place. Concept of optimal health, you need to have specific routines to develop your mental, your physical, your emotional, and your spiritual health. And the reality is that a lot of those gaps that we have in those four areas is because, for the most part, especially in the emotional, mental, for the most part, we didn't discover those gaps before we were 7 years of age. Nobody in our existence, for the most part, had a systematic approach to say, these are the gaps that you have in your executive functions, and this is how we're going to close those. No, for the most part, we go to an early childhood program and we receive instruction, but nobody systematically discovered those gaps in development. So what happened is that after that, well, you're going to carry those gaps for most of your life because 90% of the brain is developed by 5 years of age. Think about that conceptually. So that's why people like Tony Robbins, John Maxwell, John Gordons of the world, Brené Brown and others, Gabby Bernstein, they have make a living out of helping people closing those gaps. All right, and those guys are my heroes, and I love them. But a lot of the things that I encountered when reading those self-development books is that it wasn't a systematic approach. Even with the 7 habits of highly successful people, there wasn't a systematic approach to go from point A to point B and keep track of it. So that's where optimal health comes into place. So you need to start, number one, discovering and develop specific routines, for example, to improve your physical health. And obviously there's a million experts on that area, right? And a lot of people, get overwhelmed about how to start. There's several ways to start, and I talk about it in my new book coming out soon. But basically, you need to have routines in that area to increase your health from point A to point B in the physical realm. Okay. You need to do the same with your mental health. Now, there are going to be some activities that overlap, where you're doing physical health, you may be tapping also into mental health and also into emotional health and also in spiritual health. But there's going to be some activities that are especially for mental health, okay? For example, meditation, all right? So how systematic I am in that, okay? Then the other angle is the emotional health, okay? What am I doing to increase my emotional health from point A to point B? And now, again, you may have activities that overlap, but I need to have a specific approach for that quadrant. And the final quadrant is the spiritual, that to me is one of the most important ones, if not the most important one, because you need to have specific routines to improve your spirituality. In my particular case, I told you I'm a newborn Christian since January 2024, and I started reading the Bible every day for 10 to 20 minutes. Always do my prayers, connecting with Jesus, etc. So what are your routines? Go to church. So what are your routines in the spiritual realm to also develop that quadrant? So you have those 4 quadrants, and then the follow-up question is, okay, but what is my plans? Because I asked one of the individuals that I coach and say, okay, first of all, what are your superpowers? And she told me the superpowers, and I said, okay, great. What is your plan to develop it? And she's like, that's what you don't know. So I want you to think about a matrix of 3 angles to develop your superpowers and in the 4 quadrants of your ultimate health. Because remember, if you don't focus on those 4 quadrants, it's like a table that is lacking one leg. The table is going to be unstable. So you need to develop those 4 quadrants to have a stable life for emotional. And I'm not saying that you have to have 100% health on the 4 quadrant. One quadrant may be 80%, the other quadrant may be 75%, the other quadrant may be 80%. But you want to be over 70%. It's almost like class, right? You pass with 70. Well, you want to at least approve the assignment on each one of the quadrants. And so I want you to look at from the angle of a matrix of 3 areas. Okay, number 1, professional development. Systematic professional development. What am I doing to systematically develop my superpower? Okay, for example, and acquire knowledge about my superpower. What books am I reading? What videos on YouTube or on the internet I can watch? What movies I can watch? What seminars I can attend to learn, acquire knowledge about my superpower, specific superpower. You can extrapolate the same for any of the quadrants of the ultimate health. What activities, what professional development am I doing in regards to physical health, in regards to mental health, in regards to emotional health, in regards to spiritual health, okay? So professional development, that's the first quadrant. The second quadrant is coaching, okay? I need to adopt a coach or a mentor that's going to keep me on track. Now, that could be free, okay? You can do it online. You can have face-to-face coaches and mentors that can keep you on check. I highly suggest that you talk to a friend or your family, so they can keep you, on track, and they can check on you. A mentor, by definition, has to be somebody who is better than you on a particular area. There's that quote that we hear all the time. If I'm a smartest person in that table, I probably need another table. Okay, so that's the coaching. Okay, it has to be systematic. Okay, you have to have systematic track, a coaching track on what you're doing. And number 3 is a systematic data collection system. In other words, how am I collecting that data to prove that I'm moving from point A to point B? And that could start very simple. It could start by me taking notes in my iPhone by saying, day 1 of my journey on discovering my superpower, day 2, etc. That's number 1. The other one, it could get more sophisticated. It could be, how much depth that I have when I started this process, and how much depth am I having, as I move forward. How many books have I read? How many hours of TV am I watching? How is my weight improved, my body fat, or am I able to run a marathon, or am I able to react better when facing challenges emotionally and mentally? So a specific data collection, it could be anecdotal, it could be a journal that you keep in, but a data collection system where you can keep track of your progress. So if you do this, if you know, not only discover your superpowers, your natural abilities, okay, and then put a systematic plan to increase those superpowers to optimal health through this angle, professional development coaching and a data collection system, I promise you that your life is gonna get substantially better than where you are right now, and you're gonna achieve and you're gonna surpass your goals. Because remember, it's not about the goals, it's about execution accountability. In other words, I have to keep myself accountable for what I'm doing every day. If I start thinking too much about the goal may be too little or maybe too high, and then I'm gonna get disappointed. Sometimes, like my dear friend Ted Fujimoto says, goal setting approach may be toxic. Okay, so focus more on the execution. In other words, like short-term goals. What am I doing today to improve my superpowers through ultimate health, which has 4 quadrants: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And then you're gonna see how results are gonna start coming out on its own. So hopefully this was a helpful conversation. I'm gonna keep doing this, and in the next time I'm probably gonna start dissecting a little bit more what are examples of superpowers. I'm gonna then dissect the physical health, the mental health, the emotional health, and then the spiritual health. I hope you guys have a fantastic day and a fantastic week, and we continue seeing each other here. Okay, we can do this together. Let's go.